What's up, bombers? Happy Halloween! It is Boss Bomb Maude Garrett here for Geek Bomb, and I'm doing a horror-themed video for you. Yeah, cool, my lipstick's a little bit darker, and it's spoopy. Spooky? I don't understand. I didn't celebrate Halloween in Australia. This whole thing's new to me. If you checked out my last video, you also know I didn't really watch horror movies. I ranked, rated, chatted about the only horror movies that I have actually seen, and how I have evolved from how I, absorb horror. It's a whole thing. In this video, I'm going to talk you through how I got my phobia when I went into the haunted house. And why I'm so afraid of Chucky. People may have seen this clip that went viral a couple of years ago.
But I've actually got a phobia now of let's call them little people, because the Chucky when it came out, no,
he's
don't.
Just over there.
Don't
There's a guy in a Chucky costume. No, I'm serious. That just happened. This is a real... I might have to take over. What's the show called? I'm hosting from now on. Wow. You know, I think we can talk about this. Let's get deep into the issue. What is it about that tiny Chucky man who's potentially going to scare you that makes you cry tears on camera?
I don't know. I think it's because it tried to kill me. Don't do it, please.
I'm essentially on the carpet covering the Halloween horror nights at Universal, and I was interviewing Lee Winnell, who's an Australian, who's done a bunch of, he teamed up and basically created Saw with James Wan, who I spoke about, who's the director of Conjuring 2, and he's done a bunch of things, and he was in The Conjuring, I believe. No, the other one that they did, Insidious. He was in those movies acting. He's a legend. Thank God he was able to just be such a great person when I had my meltdown, and I tried to explain it in that video, but it's not entirely clear, and I kind of wanted to clear up what the deal with me and Chucky is, because as I explained in my last video, I actually haven't seen Chucky. I haven't seen the movies at all, and I didn't even really know that I was frightfully scared of anything until this one fateful day around June of 2012 when I was visiting America. This was to see if I wanted to move over here. So it was like a preliminary little test. I had a friend who got us express passes for Universal Studios, and we spent the day having a blast at that theme park. As we were leaving, thoroughly exhausted, there was one last thing we hadn't done, and that was the haunted house that was there 24/7, all year around. I think this is like even before Halloween Horror Nights existed. This was just the Halloween staple horror house with no particular theme. It was like, whoa, the scaries. I went in, and the first thing we saw was like the mummy room, and there was a werewolf, and like quite quickly I was like, oh, I don't actually like this. This isn't really my speed. I don't like being scared, and I definitely don't like people scaring me. I'm not sure if it's a control thing. I'm not sure if it's just that I'm so jumpy as a person. If I turn the corner in my apartment block too fast and someone's there, I will... And it takes me a moment just to kind of calm down. And they're like, whoa, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm just a jumpy person. I usually use the words little bitch or a scaredy cat. Worse terms. And I understand that this, I'm a very jumpy person. So once the werewolf kind of came out, it was, whoa, I was just like, I don't really like this. And I got scared, and I started getting like a little panicky, and I was just like, oh, I want to get out of this quite quickly. My friends were laughing, and they thought it was hilarious. But at this stage, like when I kind of start getting worked up, it's not a good place to be for me personally. So we're going through the house quite quickly. I needed to be sandwiched in between my two friends. So one was in front of me, one was behind me, and that's how I felt most safe. You are always aware that these people cannot touch you. Like that's always just a given. But I also notice that the more scared you become, the more they lock onto you. And I think that these characters are taught that fear is contagious. So if someone starts screaming and becomes quite a lot, that actually lends into other people feeling those emotions as well. And it kind of has a chain reaction. So the more scared you are, the more you're locked onto. I was locked onto. Why wouldn't you? Oh my God, this is the thing though. If I was one of the characters, they call characters, but they're scary, so they're characters. I would get a kick out of scaring me. I would love to scare me. Being the person scared is horrific and horrendous. I guess in that instance, I am not masochistic, I am sadistic, because I prefer to dish it out than to take it. I could apply that on a lot of things, but I've done a lot of growing. But in this instance, horror, don't like it. We entered the children's bedroom because a big trope in horror is always the doll or the possessed child or Chucky. And the child's bedroom, again, very, very freaky, was walking past it, and this toy box that was in, up in the corner on a platform sprung open, and this Chucky doll came out of it with its knife and kind of maneuvered around. When that happened, because the whole room was so silent and it was quite scarce, there wasn't much except for this toy box and the bed. And I remember being so scared by that, I kind of stumbled back and I slammed against the wall and I couldn't get my breath. It took me a long time to realize I had my very first panic attack. I just wasn't expecting that. My friends that were sandwiching me laughed hysterically, thought it was hilarious, moved on. But I had to stop because I was like, oh my God, I feel like such an idiot being that scared. It was a robot. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, you idiot. All that's happened is that you've walked past and you've set off a sensor, a motion sensor, and it's just kind of come out from that. You can buy them in Kmart for $20, it's the motion sensor thing that reacts. And I remember saying to myself, walking up to the now shut toy box, going, if I find out that this is just a, motion censored robot, I will never be scared of anything again. And I walk up to it cautiously, and without fail, this thing springs open and does the same movement. And I'm like, you idiot, Garrett, you fucking moron. It's just a robot. And I start laughing because it's the funniest thing to realize that I never got to be scared of anything ever again. And then this little fucker stepped out of the toy box and it chased me down the stairs. And it had a knife and it started slashing at my face. As soon as it stepped out of the box, something in my brain kind of snapped because I was convinced that it wasn't real. But then it started becoming and being real. I couldn't almost figure that out. Because of that, when I turned around to run, my legs gave way because they weren't moving. So the top half of my body was out of there, but my bottom half was frozen. And the result of that is just flinging yourself onto the ground. That wasn't fun for me. I can barely remember this. But yeah, I just remember being on my front, on my arms, on the ground. And this Chucky doll is over me, continuing to slash with its knife and the mask on. And I'm just army crawling on my hands and knees, trying to get out of this room and trying to get away from it. And I'm absolutely hysterical at this stage. And my friends had abandoned me, and I'm going through this psychological trauma. And yeah, this Chucky doll is, all of 3 feet tall, but maybe taller than that. But when you're on the ground and it's above you, it looks huge. And I felt like I couldn't move. And I kind of got through the rest of it and ran out. And I was just talking to my friends through it, and I was genuinely in shock to the point where I was straight to the bar and I wanted a drink. And I was like, oh my God, I need to actually calm down from this. And then while we were at the bar, a little person walked in and I had a really adverse reaction. I was like, and I was like, not again. And I remember being, at the time of the filming of the red carpet, I was like, I actually think that I could be now, because of that, afraid of little people. And I felt mortified because I was like, Willow's my favorite movie, like Princess Bride is. But you know what I mean? So it's like, I have no problem with this. I've never been affected by this. It's just this one instance that's created this traumatic response for me. And after doing a little bit of research, because I was just like, this isn't it. There's something more going on here. And I remember telling the story and someone said, oh my gosh, I have something like this. Look up automatonophobia. And I hope it goes automatono, because it's a long word that I've learned to say. Automatonophobia is the fear of something that's not real coming to life. And that's exactly what happened in this instance. I thought it was an animatronic, a robot, And then it came to life. And something in my brain was just like, whoa. Up until this point, I have never been afraid of mannequins. I've never been afraid of dolls. I've never had a problem with any of that stuff. I had no issue with clowns. I remember I dated a guy 10 years ago and we went to Luna Park and there were clowns walking past and he froze. And he's like, I don't like this. I don't like them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Just them? I don't understand. They're so innocent. They're just people. I get it now. I don't need clowns in my life. And it's kind of all because of this one thing that has happened to me. So automatonophobia, I've actually seen happen more and more. Most recently, I went to the after party for All Mankind, a new series on Apple Plus TV, sorry. And it tells the story of the space race, but if the Russians beat the US. I took a photo with this astronaut suit and I put my hand down and I felt its hand and I jumped out of my skin because I was just like, oh my God, I thought it tried to hold my hand. I thought this non-alive thing was coming to life and trying to hold my hand. And I just had a moment where I was like, oh God, I didn't like that. When I was at BlizzCon 3 years ago, I think there's a video on this channel, I looked at the Weta Workshop who worked on the Warcraft movie, and they'd done these incredible lifelike statues of the orcs. I'm talking body hair, scars, eyebrows, you name it. Like, it was so realistic, and they were like 8 feet tall. And I remember standing next to it and I was just like, I felt so uneasy because I was just expecting this statue to blink. And I was just like, oh, I don't like this. I'm getting in my head about it. So I now have, because of this one fateful day, automatonophobia. And it's not necessarily the Chucky instance, but every time I do see Chucky, I'm just like, oh God, I'm reminded of this moment that I had. But I just think that learning and developing a fear as an adult is kind of a fascinating thing. And I love learning about it. And, you know, when you're born, I think you are only born with like 1 or 2 fears. And that is the fear of falling, because I believe you're placed on a table. And I think the fear of going hungry. I could be wrong, but it's something around those lines. Everything else outside of that is learnt. It's a fear that you are taught or that you adopt or that you creates itself. And I just think that that's spectacular, because I've always been afraid of horror movies, but like this whole realm of things that I'm now scared of that I wasn't, like, just didn't exist, and now it does. And I do want to overcome fears. I have a lot of them. I'm scared of heights, that feeling of free fall that you feel it going up your spine. I absolutely hate that. There's turbulence in a plane. I feel like I'm going to projectile vomit. I don't like those roller coasters or scary rides. There's so many that some of my friends back home in Australia who really know me, like, they've nicknamed me Le Puce because I'm just so scared of things. It's a really nice way of calling me a... Yeah, I'm quite petrified of a lot of things, and I find myself saying no to a lot. And I don't like that. I don't like being the person that says no, the person that has this safety bubble that needs protection and, you know, that can't step outside of their comfort zone. So I'm really trying to work out of that. And if you watch my horror movie video, you'll know that I'm actually watching more of them, and this is something that I'm growing with, and that's kind of cool. But at the same time, irrational fears, man, they're a real thing. And I think they're fascinating. And I want to ask you guys, do you have an irrational fear or know someone that does? What is your irrational fear? Tell me all about it in the comments. And yeah, now you know the full story behind the Chucky phobia. And that it's not really a Chucky at all. And I wonder if that person has any idea the kind of like permanent effect that they've had on me. I think that's just fascinating as well. And it's obviously still affecting me. And if I remember talking about that moment, as you saw in the Chucky red carpet video. When I was talking about it, I was almost reliving it, and it was becoming traumatic. And then when I saw a Chucky on the carpet, I had a full-blown meltdown, didn't I? But now you get why. And the meltdown was 5 years ago, and the actual thing was 7 years ago. So it's a long time since. But I really don't like it when people post Chuckies in my feed. It still gets me, guys. I'm still like, ugh, I just don't need that in my life. Or I need so much of it that it just becomes desensitized for me. Interesting thing to tackle. But I've been vulnerable in this video, so please be nice to me in the comments. And let me know what your irrational phobias and fears are. Cool, bye.